Greetings and salutations. Welcome to another video. Thank you for checking it out. Thank you to everybody who posted all the nice things on the community page here on the channel when I announced a couple of weeks ago that I would be taking a short break because I had a terrible cold that went into laryngitis and I couldn't talk for about a week and a half, and then after that I couldn't talk very long at all without coughing. So a lot of you had some very nice things to say, get well, that sort of thing. Thank you very much. It was encouraging. Also, I want to say thank you to everybody who watched the last video. I didn't think that video was going to be that big of a hit. You proved me wrong. You see, when I was putting it together, I researched it for 2 weeks, and I thought to myself, well, anything I work on this hard, nobody's going to watch. That's usually the way it works. But you proved me wrong. Thank you very much. Also, thank you to all the recent subscribers here on the channel. Like 4,000 new subscribers in the last 28 days, according to the YouTube statistics. That is awesome. As usual, if you like what you see in this video, give it a big thumbs up. That helps YouTube to understand that people do want to see long-form content on this platform instead of vertical video trash. And also, it helps to get videos like this out in front of more people. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. The more the merrier. So the idea behind this video is to help you find help with Linux, no matter where you are on your Linux journey. You might be just starting out, or you might be a user with a little bit of experience, or you may be a neckbeard. Doesn't matter where you are. Sooner or later, you're going to have to find help with something. You're going to have to troubleshoot a problem or figure out how to do something on a Linux system. And there are lots of places that you can get information about all of the different commands and programs that you have on your machine. So I'm going to introduce those to you today. I had a teacher in high school who once said that the trick to becoming really good at any subject of learning, to master it, you didn't have to know everything about it. You had to know where to get information about it when you needed it. And that sets your mind free, because when you're not trying to memorize everything, when you can say to yourself, okay, if I need that, I know where to get it, then you can concentrate on whatever you have going on at the moment. And it makes it a lot easier to deal with a big subject like Linux. And Linux is huge. Even the most humble server install of Linux, with no desktop or no extra programs, comes with a mountain of documentation. You could spend days reading the documentation that just comes in your Linux machine. And we're going to take a look at a lot of that today. Before we get into it, I want to kind of point out the obvious here. If you are running desktop Linux and you have a graphic application, so in this case we're going to take a look at Puddle Tag. Did a video about this particular program not too long ago if you want to check it out. It works with tags on MP3 files. Pretty much any program that you open is going to have a help somewhere. Like in this case it's on the menu, or it might be on the little hamburger menu. Wherever it is, you'll see help. And if you click on that, you may get really lucky and you'll get documentation like this. This is their online documentation for Puddle Tag. And it is amazingly well done. There are tutorials here, references, development. Everything you could possibly ever want to know about this program is there. So I did want to point that out before we started to get into things that had to do with command line and deeper things on the terminal, to let you know that there is help available pretty much in every program. How good that help is going to depend on how well that program is documented and how well it's maintained and all that stuff. But it is there. So let's jump into finding help on your Linux system first. And yes, there is an order to where you should look for information, depending on what your problem is. If you're trying to figure out how to run a command or what a command does, the first place to look would be the man pages. You have to ask the man. Yes, I had to say it. I just had to. The manual system is something that is truly amazing on Linux because it does have a very well-defined format, and those who contribute programs to the system will write documentation in this certain format, and it will all be gathered together in the ManDB, which is the manual database, and you can access that database and find out all kinds of information. So the basic way to use man, just do man and the command that you're looking to learn about, ls. So this is the manual page for the ls command right here. Once you are here, you can use your arrow keys to go up and down, and then you can use page up and page down to go a page at a time. Also, home will take you to the top of the page, and end will take you to the bottom. And then once you're done gathering all the information that you need, you press the Q button to get out. It's very simple. So it works like the less utility when reading text. It's exactly how it works. So there are man pages for pretty much every command on Linux as long as it's a standalone binary. There's even a man page for man itself, so you can do man. Pretty cool, huh? What if you need to find information? We have an error message here. That's interesting. Let's see if we get that again. Yep. There's a bug in there. We found ourselves a bug, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about error messages later, though. So, what if you want to find information about a command, but you don't know the command's name? In other words, you would like to learn about commands that concern themselves with time, for instance. Then we would use the apropos command. A-P-R-O-P-O-S. Yeah, I know it looks like apropos, but the correct pronunciation is apropos. And then we would put in time, since we're using that for our example. And then we get a list of manual pages that are available on the system that have something to do with time. And you'll notice here as you scan up and down that we have a listing for the time command, but we not just have one, but we got two right there. And they have numbers next to them. One of them is 7 and one of them is 1. That refers to sections of a manual page. And so you can grab sections of a manual page quite easily. By the way, I cleared the screen with Control L, or you can type clear, whatever makes life better for you. So if we just do man and then we put in time, then we'll get the main page for time. It says General Commands Manual right there for time. And if we want to get the extra information, we do man, put in the section number, and then time. And now we see that there is the miscellaneous information manual for the time command. So that might come in handy as well. Man pages are not just available on your system. They're available online. So if we jump over here to Google Chrome, or whatever browser you like, you can type in man ls, and then you will find the first entry here is man7.org, which is where a lot of man pages live online, and then you can find what we were looking at in our Linux distribution. By the way, what we're looking at today is Linux Mint Debian Edition 7, which is based on Debian 13 Trixie. Whatever distribution of Linux you might be running, you might see slightly different versions of things, or certain documentation may not be there that I'm showing you today, or you may have extra. It just depends on how the distribution has chosen to handle it. This is pretty much standardized. And one of the cool things about having it available online like we have here is that if you get curious about a Linux command and you're nowhere near a Linux system, you can look it up on your phone and you can be reading about it. Or you can have that information sitting there while you're working on a Linux system. Let's say that you're working on a server online somewhere, like it's in a data center somewhere far away, and you're using SSH to work on it. You can have that man page up and you can be using whatever command you need. It happens, and it's quite useful. So man pages are available online, which is totally awesome. So let's go over here and now talk about bash built-in commands. There's a few of those, and you may need to get help with those as well. It's a different syntax for that because bash built-in commands are actually part of the bash command line interpreter themselves, and they have a slightly different format for getting help with them. They're not standalone binaries, and so therefore they're not in the ManDB database. And so you can just type in help, which will give you a list of all of the built-in commands that run with the bash command line interpreter right here. If you want to do something specific, then you can do help cd, for instance, and then you'll get a page of information about how cd works and the options for cd. It's right there. Clear. For just to point this out, that if we do man cd, what we're going to get is no entry. There's nothing there because it's a built-in command. So that's good to keep in mind. There is another entirely different database of manual pages on your system that lives right next to the whole ManDB, and that would be info. Now, info comes from GNU. So most of you do know that the official name for Linux is GNU, GNU/Linux. We just call it Linux because it's Linux, man. Don't go crazy in the comments about that. All you people that go around going, well, Linux is a kernel and you can't use the kernel. You're just wasting your time. Stop doing it. It's Linux. It has been Linux for the last 30 years. Stop, okay? Stop. You're not doing anybody any favors at all. No one, anywhere. It's just injecting negative energy into the community. Rant over. Let's talk about info pages. So info works the same way that man does. So we'll do the info page for ls, and it's kind of the same format. It is a little bit more humanly readable, and I also like the fact that it's more text-based. So there you go. That's the man page, or rather the info page for ls. Q to exit. Let's try that for rsync. I want to see if there's one for rsync as well. So I think that kind of went over to the man page, to tell you the truth, because it looks like it. But then it, yeah, I think that just defaulted over to the man database in that case. But you can look up info as well and see if you can find a different page. So that is man and info. That's basic stuff. Now, you notice that these pages are not particularly verbose. They don't have long descriptions. They are not tutorials. What they are is a way for you to get basic information about a command very quickly online. Most of the time, that's all you really need because you already know what you're going after. So let's talk about other places to find help. Some programs that you have on your system may not have a man page entry. The developer might have chosen not to do that. And in that case, there may be help that's available with that program, and you can try to access that information. For instance, here's a program that I wrote myself, and I didn't bother to try and figure out how to do man pages for it because it's really a very simple program. But I did provide a help page, and --help will get that for you. So this is the help page that I wrote for my up script. And it works the same way as a man page. So there are other programs like, let's look at TimeShift. I want to see if there is a manual page for TimeShift. There may be now. There used to be, there wasn't. Ah, there is a manual page for TimeShift. But there's also, to give you the basic commands. So both are in there now. Awesome! More information. It's always a good thing. So you can try that, and it will bring up all kinds of information. So that is, by the way, the help option. So the next place that you can go within your system to look for information, and this is if you're really bored, like you have absolutely positively nothing to do on a rainy Sunday afternoon, and you need something to occupy yourself, you can always go check out the usr/share/doc directory on your Linux distribution, and you will be amazed at what you find in there. So let's go take a look. And you know I didn't type that in, right? There we go. So if we list what's in there, you will see that we have a long list of other directories here. Well, these are documentation files for programs that are on our computer. So look, there's Rhythmbox right there. Let's take a look at what's in Rhythmbox. That's a graphic application. It's a music player that comes with GNOME usually, but a lot of distributions ship that as their default media player. I like Rhythmbox. It does what it's supposed to do. So we can go and get into that particular, let me make sure I get this right. I never can remember how to spell this word. Did I get it right? No, you didn't get it right. RHYTHM. Right. So we're into that directory, and we'll see what's in there. Let's clear the screen, run ls again. So we have all kinds of information in here. Some of this is compressed, so you see that it's in GZ, which is, a compressed format. So you would need to uncompress it to look at it, or at least figure out how to look at stuff that's in a compressed file. But we also have README, which is in plain Markdown. We also have README Debian. We have thanks. Let's take a look at thanks. So you could use cat to look at that, and it just has information in there about that. Let's look at README with cat. Oh, we have more than one README. Okay, so we'll do the Markdown version, and that has basic information about that. Now we used cat, so it just scrolled up the screen. But you could also use, if you want to kind of have the same experience like we had with the man pages and info, then you can use the less command. And watch, we get the same thing. So now we can use the arrow keys to go up and down, or page up and down. And then when we're done, just Q and you're out. In the documentation directory here, you are going to see a lot of different formats for storing text information. There may even be PDF files here. It depends on the developer. It depends on whether they want to do this to begin with. Sometimes this is not provided. What is provided there is basic documentation. And there's a lot of great information in here that you can go check out, especially if you're trying to learn a particular program on your system and learn more about it. You can go check it out. So that is very cool indeed. Let's see, what next? Linux error messages. Let's talk about error messages, because people tend to get very freaked out about error messages, and they don't realize that there's a lot of really great information in an error message. It'll tell you a lot about what is going on and what the problem is. And if the person who developed the program, the programmer, really put a lot of thought into it, error messages can help you quite a bit. So in Linux, they are usually in a certain kind of format that emphasizes clarity and machine readability. In other words, they're not just for your eyes. Error messages sometimes are there to trigger responses from other programs that may work in tandem with whatever application has the error. Error messages come to us from the standard error channel. If you'll recall from earlier videos, we talked about that data on a Unix-like system like Linux flows in 3 basic channels. There's standard in, that is data that is going into a process. Standard out, that is data that is coming from a process. And standard error. Standard error is a separate channel that is used to send error messages somewhere should errors happen while a process is running. So there's kind of a loose layout that these things go by. And the standard layout is generally like this. You have the name of the program. Then you have the content, the file name, which could be the file that it's working on where it had the problem. And then we have an error description. That's very important. You need to have that. It says this happened, and as far as we know, this is why it happened. And then finally, the system error string, which is optional, and that's usually for debugging a program. Sometimes numbers are associated with errors, and that's usually with larger programs that have very in-depth documentation. The idea is that you could say, well, this is error 451. Well, what is that? Okay, you can go look that up, and somewhere there's some sort of table that has all that information. You don't come across that very often these days, but every now and again you do see it. Error messages can be useful depending on how they are written. So let's clear the screen and let's get out of that directory and go back to home. Clear again, please. So for instance, a program that I wrote, BU, I tried to make my error messages as useful as possible. So if you run the BU command and you don't have a drive in it, this is a backup program, if you don't have a properly formatted drive, it will create an error situation and you will get an error message. And it says BU error, no USB drive connected. And what I like to do is to give the end user who's looking at the error somewhere to go check this out, right? So check to see if the BU drive is plugged in, and please run BU help to learn about drive setup. So if somebody doesn't understand how the program works and they fire it off, this will tell you how to go and find out how to format a drive to work with the program. So that is what I like to do. Sometimes I like to have fun with different programs like that. Like, let's see, this might say something nasty if I don't put that. Yeah, see, I like to have things. No argument, no host IP. You suck. This is a program that I wrote for myself, so that's why it says that. And sometimes people have fun with error messages, and I always like that. They're like little Easter eggs you find in programs. So when you come across an error message, it will give you information. It'll try and tell you a little bit about what happens. And what you should do, if you can do it, is copy that error message into a text editor and then take that text and go search it online. Go to whatever search engine you like the best, google.com, whatever, I don't care. Just go and put that in there, and a lot of times that will bring up a lot of really good information describing what the error is and could lead you to figuring out how to fix the problem. So don't let error messages freak you out too much. Just use the information that's there, try and figure out what went wrong, and see how you can address that problem. Now, like we saw earlier with the man command there, we got an error message. That was a bug. Sometimes error messages can indicate that there's a bug in the program. So in those situations, usually there's no solution. It's just there's a bug. And you might want to report the bug. We're going to talk more about that here in just a few moments. But for right now, just get that text from that error message. A graphic program usually will throw an error message up on the screen. Sometimes that will let you copy the message out of the little box that comes up. Sometimes it won't. I really wish that all developers would, when they're doing like GTK and Qt applications, some sort of toolkit graphic application, that they would make those error messages copyable so you could grab them and then go look that up somewhere. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's just the way it is. So use error messages to your advantage. Absolutely. So one of the reasons that I wanted to do this video and I thought about it was is that I have had to do a ton of research for the videos that I've been posting here on the channel, and I have found that AI is your friend when looking up information about Linux, because it can concatenate a lot of information and go straight to the heart of what you need and give you a little overview. It is AI, which means that it might be spouting something that isn't quite true, but usually you can figure that out, because if you will go to what the AI is citing, if you will go and look at the references and read through there, you can tell the difference between whether it's usually something from a reputable web page or a man page or something like that, or just some strange forum post. Usually you can figure that out pretty easily. And I've been using Google's Gemini just in the Google search. As a matter of fact, some of the text that you're seeing here was generated by Gemini, because it does a good way. It does a good job in a good way of bringing information together and giving you a quick overview. So it's very useful. I'll give you an example. So I was setting up a server not too long ago. When I changed my file server, the original Teensy server that I've talked about in past videos, it died, and I had to create another one. And I wanted to use Debian 13 server. So I installed it. And once I got it up and running, what I needed to learn how to do was create a static IP address for Debian 13. So I just opened up Google here, and we're going to type in something here, right? We'll do a search, and I may have put this in before, but when I did this to make sure it worked before, and actually mistyped it, so I want to make sure that I do it again, that it doesn't come up here on my search history. So I just put in set static IP for Debian server 13. That's it. Now watch this. It comes up with a really nice overview here. Go ahead and full screen that. And down here, it shows you exactly what file to edit and how to put in the exact IP addresses. So this was just invaluable. So I had this on a phone, this example right here on a phone, and I was looking at it, and then I went in to type in the information that I needed, and it worked perfectly. So yeah, if you are really good at putting a prompt in for your search, or if you're using something like ChatGPT, it can actually show you code. It can build lines of code for you. Be careful with that. You might want to test that out very carefully before you put it in your system. But for finding information on rather obscure Linux operations and commands, it seems to actually be a pretty cool thing. Experiment with it, play with it. It's a great place to learn. So I had a guy who watched the last video, How Linux Boots, and he gave me the greatest comment. He said that I was watching the video, and when you would introduce a new concept, I would pause the video and then open up a browser and search what you were talking about, and then go and read about it, and then go back to the video. That is a great way to learn, because you're just stuffing your brain with information. I was so tickled with that. I was like, that is so awesome. Do that, because I kind of hope people will do those sorts of things. I don't say that everything in my videos is 100% correct, and I don't say that everything in my videos is everything you need to know. There's always more to learn. There's always another way of doing it. There's always a shade of nuance. Go look for those sorts of things. It's pretty awesome when you do. What you find is pretty cool. So I wanted to put that in there. Now, the last thing that we want to talk about is community forums before we get into talking about books. I have a couple of books I want to recommend for you. So let's go to linuxmint.com. And we will go over here and look for links. you'll see that we have forums. We got forums, we got chat rooms, we got a blog, we got the website, we've got stuff on GitHub, Facebook, Twitter, all over the place, right, for Linux Mint. This is true of every Linux distribution there is out there. Pretty much every Linux distribution has forums around it, and in those forums, there is all kinds of information from users, and you should join the forums. If you're new to Linux, one of the first things that you should do is join the forum and start reading posts and contributing and talking to people. It is a great thing to do. In 2025, forums are not as popular as they were, let's say, 10 years ago. When I started doing Linux-related content, I had my own forum up and running, and we had a pretty good community in there. We had all kinds of things going on. These days, people, they kind of shy away from forums. Forums can be toxic. You can run into people with bad attitudes. It's real simple. Don't let yourself get into those sorts of things. As a matter of fact, I have some tips about forums. Let's take a look at that over here. So the first thing is follow the rules of the forum and be courteous to everybody. Just be a nice person. You know, like Bill and Ted said, be excellent to each other. That's it. Right? That's all you have to do. And if you do that, that goes a long way to making it so that you can get really useful information out of the forums. One of the things is that if you're brand new and you're all excited to be there and you want to post something, don't post something that you haven't done research on first, because people that are there to help people in forums, they can smell that. They can smell that you didn't even Google it. And they may not respond the way you would like them to. Just simply because the forums are there. Yes, people want to help, but you need to try and help yourself first. And if you're a newbie and you don't understand, and you say, hey, I have Googled this, I've looked for information, and I still don't know, be honest about that, straight up. Just go, I've looked this up, but I don't understand. Can somebody break this down for me? People will respond to that in a very positive way. But make sure that you go through the steps. You've read the man page. You've looked for the information. You've looked it up online before you ask a question. That's very important. The next thing to keep in mind is be sure to give details like the make and model of your machine if you're having a particular problem with graphics or whatever. It really helps to know what kind of machine you have and what kind of hardware you have, so include that. What OS are you running? What exact version? Like in the case of Linux Mint, there are different versions of Linux Mint. And there's 4 or 5 versions of Linux Mint that are currently being supported. So make sure that you mention that. You know, like if you're running Linux Mint 22.2 with Cinnamon, which is current right now, say that. If you're running LMDE, say that. Make sure that you put it in the system. Or in the comment there that you write, so people understand that. But on the flip side of that, be concise. People who are new to forums will tend to write paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff, and they'll start out with things like, I got up this morning and I turned on my Linux Mint system and it doesn't seem to work, and I went off and I fed the cat and I came back and then it was still not working and I don't understand. We don't need that information. Just keep it straight and to the point as possible. Here's my system, here's the problem that I'm having, and here is any information that I can give you. Sometimes people will ask you, by the way, they'll go look at this file, go look at this log, copy this information and give it to us. Do the best you can to comply with that, because it helps the more experienced users out there to diagnose the problem. Be prepared for that. But don't overdo it right at the start, because it's like everything else on the internet. If you look at something and you see that it's 5, 6 huge, long paragraphs, you might not want to read that. But keep it concise. Get people's attention first. Include the basic information. And then, if they want more information, they'll ask for it. Usually that's the way it works. The hardest ones to deal with, and I know this from trying to support people through the years, is when they don't give you any information at all. They'll say something like, the graphics isn't working properly on my machine. Okay, What kind of machine? What version of Linux are you running? These questions, you need to answer them. So the next thing is refrain from venting frustration toward Linux or the distribution. That is frowned upon. If you are somebody who has used proprietary operating systems like Windows and Mac all your life, then you're probably used to having an attitude of saying, this thing sucks, and you're used to talking to people in terms of venting your frustration on it like it's somehow the operating systems, is at fault for your own ignorance. A lot of people do that. And that's more tolerated in a situation where you're dealing with a for-profit company that is selling you a product and you have the righteous indignation of a customer who feels like they've been wronged. If you bring that attitude into a Linux forum, people will eat you alive because Linux is not a product. You didn't pay for this. You downloaded it for free. It is a community-generated system. There are thousands and thousands of people who dedicate themselves to developing some little part of the system or contributing to the community in some way. And if you start venting a bunch of frustration saying Linux is hard to understand and I don't, that is not going to make these people happy. They're not going to want to deal with you. Don't blame Linux. It's probably your ignorance. And everybody has to take the time to learn. You had to learn how to use Windows and Mac too. You just did it a long time ago. If you're doing it now because you want to move into the Linux world, understand that, yes, we know it gets frustrating. Please don't blame it on us. Please don't blame it on the developers. Please don't blame it on the maintainers and those who are in the forum trying to help you. Don't do that. So what if you come across somebody who is snarky? Because people are people, and you get any group together and you're going to end up with somebody who's a bad apple. You may run into one of these people in one of these forums, and if you do, my advice to you is to just ignore them. Don't respond to them. Don't get into an argument with them. This generates drama, and the less drama, the better. Now, if you're in a forum where you're having a difference of opinion, and that's what the forum is about, that's fine. You can get into a discussion with people. I like a lively debate. But when it starts getting personal and it starts getting nasty, then it becomes very unpleasant. And if you are in a forum where you're trying to get help with something, like it's help with a problem or something like that, then there's no place for that at all. That should not be there. Keep your opinions to yourself. And if somebody decides to post an opinion, please try and suppress the urge to respond to them, even if the person is a complete asshat. Stay out of the drama. It will profit you in the end. And be very kind to those who are kind to you. Try and develop relationships with people. If somebody takes a special interest in your needs and they're working with you, then please treat them with the kindness that they deserve. Thank you goes a very long way. And be sure to add that in there that, hey, thank you, I really appreciate the time. Because they're doing this for free. They're not getting paid. They're not an employee working for somebody. It's not their job to provide you with tech support. They're doing it because they feel that Linux is a worthwhile thing to contribute to, and they want to help people coming into the Linux community. So that's pretty awesome. And finally, try to give back whenever you can. That is a really big part of being in the Linux community. The whole reason that I started doing YouTube about Linux was to give back to the community, because it had given so much to me that I could download this free thing that was anonymous. So one of the great things about Linux is that you download it and it doesn't ask you for your name. It doesn't ask you for your email. You don't have to register. You don't have to get out your credit card. And it's just there for the taking. Yes, it takes time to learn. Yes, it's different. But it's a whole new world. It's a journey that you go on. And I was just in awe of that when I started really getting into Linux about 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I started to really get into Linux, and I wanted a way to contribute to the community. And that's why I do what I do. That is the prime motivation for what I do, is to give back and to help people who are coming to Linux to avoid the pitfalls. So the last thing we want to talk about are a couple of books that I have found indispensable through the years. And people ask me on occasion, are there books that you can read? And there's a ton of books out there. The problem with most books, though, is that they become outdated the moment they're printed. Because if the author, for instance, gets too specific about a distribution or programs in Linux, by the time you get the book, those projects may have moved on to something else, right? These two authors have written their books in such a way that they have stuck to really basic information and stuff that everybody can use and everybody can understand. So this is why I am talking about these two particular books. The first book that I recommend for just about everybody who wants to become a super user in Linux, I mean, no matter how far you want to go with it, is The Linux Command Line by William Schatz. And I think it's in the 4th edition. No, it's in the 6th Internet edition right now. This is available for free. You can just download it. It's also available in print, so you can go get it. I'd like to have books in print. I'm not somebody who likes to read a lot of content online. My eyes just can't deal with it, so I like to have an actual book, and then I can use my big old magnifying glass, and I can really see what's going on, you know? But this book is really awesome, and a lot of what I talk about in my videos comes from this. So you can go to the Linux Command Line here. I have a link in the description to the video, and you can go and download this book or buy it. And really, it will start you out with the basics, and by the end of the book, you'll be writing pretty cool bash scripts and things like that. So, the Linux Command Line by William Schatz. If you'd like to dig deeper into the system, this is another great book, How Linux Works. It's in the 3rd edition, What Every Super User Should Know, and it's by Brian Ward. And it's available on Amazon. You can buy it lots of places on the internet, and it's there for download, or you can get it in print. This is going to give you a good overview of how the Linux operating system works. I gave credit to this book, the last video that I posted, because there was a lot in there that helped me a lot to get my research together. So I have no affiliation with the author of this book, or William Schatz for that matter. These are just books that have helped me through the years, and I strongly recommend them. Definitely well worth the price and well worth checking out. Thank you very much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. And as I said at the beginning of this video, thank you to everybody who has subscribed, watched my recent uploads, and they're interacting with the channel. Thank you so much. It is so appreciated. When I started to really focus on Linux again, after quitting my job at the radio station, I had no idea where this would go, and all indications are that this is going to be a very successful phase in the life of this channel. This channel has been up since 2008, and I've done a lot of different things, and there's a lot of old videos you can check out. Some of them are cringy, but they're there, and you can have a good time with them if you want to. So moving forward, I want to do more videos like this. What do you want to know? What would you like me to take a deep dive on? What would you like me to look at? Put your suggestions in the comments below. A lot of what I'm posting are videos that are suggested by users, and don't be shy. Go ahead and put it in there. Now, there are certain things I'm not qualified to talk about, like a lot of people ask about Kali Linux. I don't know anything about Kali Linux. I'm not going to be able to do videos about that. I'm not a hacker. I'm here to teach people how to get started with Linux on a desktop. What you do with it after that is entirely up to you, though. You want to go hack things, be my guest. Some of my best friends are hackers. So that's cool, but that's not a subject that I'm ever really going to get into. And, like specific things about certain programs, I don't use them. My Linux needs are very simple. I need me a browser, and I need me some way to record audio, and I need me some way to play back audio and play video and record video. That's it. I don't even edit these videos with any kind of video editing software. I just sit down and record them with simple screen recorder. So I don't really get too deep into the software. But when you talk about operating systems, storage devices, file storage, backups, man, I'm right there. That's what I'm into, is that low-level stuff. I love it, and I'm getting pretty good at networking too. So that's awesome. Once again, thanks for watching. We'll do it again soon.